It was late at night and the hum of computers filled the quiet office at SpaceX headquarters. Most employees had gone home hours ago, but Elon Musk was still there, sitting in front of a glowing monitor. He wasn't working on rockets or electric cars tonight. Instead, he was digging into something strange that had caught his attention earlier in the day. During a routine cybersecurity check on Tesla's servers, his team noticed some unusual activity. At first glance, it seemed like nothing serious, just random encrypted files stored deep within the system. But when Musk opened them, what he found sent chills down his spine. The documents were fragmented, jumbled up like pieces of a puzzle scattered across the floor. But as Musk pieced them together, patterns began to emerge. Names, dates, transactions, all pointing toward something bigger than anyone could imagine. Among those names were familiar ones, powerful figures who had shaped global politics for decades. One name stood out more than others: the Clintons. It wasn't just one person, it was an entire network, a web of connections stretching across countries, industries, and even governments. At first, Musk thought it might be a prank, or some elaborate hoax. After all, why would such explosive information end up on Tesla's servers? But the deeper he dove, the clearer it became that this was real. These weren't idle rumors or conspiracy theories plucked from internet forums. This was hard evidence, emails, financial records, memos that hinted at illegal arms deals, money laundering schemes, and backdoor negotiations designed to manipulate world events. And if these allegations were true, then people at the highest levels of power were involved. Musk leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. His mind raced with questions. How did this data get here? Who put it there? More importantly, what should he do about it? Exposing something like this wouldn't just make waves, it would cause a tsunami. Powerful people didn't take kindly to having their secrets aired out in public. If he went forward, he knew he'd be putting himself, and possibly everyone around him, at risk. On the other hand, staying silent felt wrong. Ignoring corruption meant letting it fester, spreading its poison further. That wasn't something Musk could live with. He decided to gather a small group of trusted engineers and analysts to help him make sense of the data. They worked tirelessly over the next few days, decrypting files, cross-referencing details, and verifying sources. Each new discovery only confirmed how deep the rabbit hole went. There were mentions of offshore accounts, shell companies hiding billions of dollars, and shadowy meetings held in luxurious hotels around the world. Some entries referenced foreign leaders, while others pointed to influential businessmen and politicians closer to home. It was like uncovering a secret society operating right under everyone's noses. But as they dug deeper, paranoia started creeping in. Musk couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching them. Strange things began happening. Servers crashed without explanation. Files disappeared overnight. Even their personal devices acted oddly, as though being monitored. Musk knew they needed to tread carefully. Whatever they were dealing with, it wasn't just a loose thread waiting to be pulled. It was a tightly woven fabric holding together a dangerous empire. One evening, after another long day of analysis, Musk received a message on his phone. It came through an anonymous app, the kind used by whistleblowers and hackers to stay off the grid. The text was short but chilling. "Stop now, or you'll regret it." No signature, no explanation, just those 8 words staring back at him. From the screen, for a moment Musk froze, unsure whether to laugh or feel terrified. Was this a bluff, a warning, or a threat? His instincts told him not to back down. Instead, he doubled down, instructing his team to tighten their security protocols and continue working discreetly. He also made plans to start leaking parts of the information online, using advanced encryption techniques to protect both the data and their identities. He figured that once the truth got out, it would be impossible to ignore. People deserved to know what was really going on behind closed doors. As the days turned into weeks, Musk found himself walking a tightrope between hope and fear. Hope that exposing the truth would spark change, and fear that doing so might cost him everything. Yet despite the risks, he couldn't turn away. Deep down, he believed in humanity's ability to rise above corruption, to demand better from those in power. And maybe, just maybe, he could play a role in making that happen. Little did he know, the hardest part was yet to come. Washington, D.C. was alive with its usual buzz, politicians rushing between meetings, lobbyists whispering in hushed tones, and tourists snapping photos of monuments that symbolized freedom and democracy. But beneath the polished surface of this city lay a darker reality, one that had been hidden for decades. It wasn't just about one person or one family. It was about an intricate web of power, greed, and secrets that stretched far beyond what anyone could have imagined. As Elon Musk continued to piece together the puzzle from the encrypted files he'd uncovered, flashes of the past began to emerge. The story didn't start recently, it went back years, even decades. It traced its roots to a time when Bill Clinton was still president, charming crowds with his charisma while quietly building alliances behind closed doors. Back then, no one questioned how certain deals were made or why specific foreign leaders seemed unusually friendly toward the United States. Everyone assumed it was just politics as usual, but it wasn't. What Musk discovered painted a very different picture. Decisions that looked like acts of diplomacy often masked something murkier. Illegal arms shipments routed through third-party countries, bribes disguised as campaign donations, and favors exchanged under the table. These weren't isolated incidents either. They were part of a pattern, a system designed to benefit a select few at the expense of many. And when Hillary Clinton took on roles like Secretary of State, the network expanded further, reaching into new territories and industries. The Clintons weren't alone in this game. They were surrounded by powerful allies, wealthy donors who funded their campaigns in exchange for influence, corporate executives looking to secure lucrative contracts, and even foreign governments eager to exploit loopholes in international law. Together they formed a shadowy alliance that operated outside the boundaries of ethics and legality. Their tools, money, connections, and the ability to manipulate public perception. Their goal? To maintain control over resources, policies, and people. Musk knew that exposing this kind of operation wouldn't be easy. He couldn't simply walk into a press conference and drop bombshells without proof. So he decided to take a cautious approach. Using anonymous platforms, he started leaking fragments of the evidence bit by bit. At first, the leaks were small, cryptic messages, blurry screenshots, and vague hints about corruption. But each leak added another layer to the story, drawing attention from independent journalists, activists, and curious citizens who saw cracks in the official narrative. Not everyone reacted positively, though. Mainstream media outlets dismissed the leaks as baseless conspiracy theories, accusing Musk of trying to stir up trouble for personal gain. Talk show hosts mocked him, calling him paranoid and irresponsible. Pundits argued that there was no concrete evidence to support his claims, conveniently ignoring the fact that Musk hadn't released everything yet. Meanwhile, supporters of the Clintons rallied fiercely, defending their idols and labeling Musk a reckless opportunist. Despite the backlash, Musk pressed on. He knew the truth would eventually come out, but he also realized he couldn't do this alone. He needed help from someone on the inside. Someone who understood the inner workings of the network and could provide undeniable proof. That's when a message arrived in his encrypted inbox, sent by an unknown sender. "Meet me," the message read. "I have what you're looking for." Musk hesitated. Who was this person? Could they be trusted? Or was this a trap set by those trying to silence him? After weighing the risks, he decided to respond. The sender claimed to be a former aide who had worked closely with Hillary Clinton during her tenure as Secretary of State. This person said they had witnessed enough wrongdoing to fill volumes and wanted to share it, but only face-to-face. They agreed to meet at a neutral location, somewhere remote and secure. Musk knew this was a gamble. Meeting strangers in person carried obvious dangers, especially given the stakes. Still, he felt he had no choice. If this whistleblower truly had critical information, it could be the key to unlocking the entire conspiracy. Back at Tesla and SpaceX, things were getting tense. Employees noticed strange activity, unauthorized access attempts on company servers. Mysterious emails flagged by IT teams and sudden changes in employee behavior. Musk kept his findings tightly under wraps, sharing details only with a handful of trusted colleagues. Even so, rumors spread quickly. People whispered about why Musk seemed distracted lately, why he spent hours locked in private meetings, and why security around him had suddenly tightened. One evening, as Musk prepared for the meeting with the whistleblower, he received another anonymous message. This one was shorter and more ominous than the last. "You've been compromised." Musk stared at the words, his heart pounding. Compromised? By whom? How much did they know? He immediately alerted his security team, instructing them to review every possible angle. Had someone close to him betrayed him? Was there a mole within his organization? The questions swirled in his mind as he packed a bag and prepared to leave. He couldn't afford to let fear paralyze him. Not now. Not when he was so close to uncovering the truth. Whatever waited for him at the meeting, he knew one thing for sure. The fight against corruption was bigger than any single person. It was about standing up for justice even when the odds felt impossible. And if he succeeded, it wouldn't just be a victory for him. It would be a victory for everyone who believed in a fairer, more transparent world. Little did Musk know, the meeting ahead would test his courage and his trust in ways he never anticipated. The air was crisp as Elon Musk stepped out of his car, the sound of gravel crunching beneath his boots. He had chosen this place carefully, a secluded cabin nestled deep in the woods of Montana. It was miles away from any main road, surrounded by towering pine trees that seemed to whisper secrets to each other in the wind. The isolation made it perfect for a meeting like this, where every word spoken could carry life-altering consequences. Musk glanced around nervously before heading inside. His security team had swept the area earlier, ensuring no one was lurking nearby. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was paranoia setting in after weeks of cryptic messages and anonymous threats. Or maybe it was because he was about to meet someone claiming to hold the final piece of a puzzle that could bring down one of the most powerful networks in modern history. Either way, his gut told him to stay alert. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was tense. A fire crackled softly in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the wooden walls. Sitting at a small table was the whistleblower, a woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and an even sharper demeanor. She introduced herself only by her first initial, L, explaining that revealing more would put her loved ones in danger. Musk nodded, understanding the stakes. They didn't have time for pleasantries. "Do you know what you're risking by being here?" Elle asked, her voice low but firm. "I think I do," Musk replied, pulling out a chair and sitting across from her. "But if what you say is true, then staying silent is riskier." For the next hour, Elle laid out everything she knew. She spoke of covert meetings held in luxury hotels, where deals were struck over glasses of champagne. She described how billions of dollars flowed through offshore accounts, funding operations that ranged from illegal arms trades to election meddling. And she revealed names, powerful figures who pulled strings from the shadows, manipulating governments and economies to serve their own interests. To back up her claims, Elle handed over physical evidence, audio recordings of private conversations, financial documents detailing suspicious transactions, and memos outlining strategies to silence dissenters. Musk listened intently, his expression shifting between disbelief and determination. Every document, every recording, confirmed what he'd suspected all along. The Clintons weren't just part of the network. They were central players. But just as Musk began thanking Elle for her courage, chaos erupted outside. The distant hum of engines grew louder until headlights pierced through the trees, illuminating the cabin. Armed agents dressed in tactical gear stormed in without warning, shouting orders and pointing weapons. Musk's heart sank. Someone had tipped them off. Without hesitation, Elle grabbed the files and shoved them into a backpack, motioning for Musk to follow her. Together they bolted out the back door and into the dense forest. Branches whipped against their faces as they ran, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Behind them, shouts echoed through the trees as the agents gave chase. Musk's mind raced. Who had betrayed him? How had they found out about the meeting? As much as he wanted answers, survival came first. He trusted Elle implicitly now. She had risked everything to help him, and he owed her the same loyalty. For what felt like hours, they zigzagged through the woods, using the terrain to their advantage. Finally, they reached a hidden clearing where a beat-up pickup truck waited. Elle jumped into the driver's seat while Musk climbed in beside her, clutching the backpack tightly. As they sped away, adrenaline coursed through Musk's veins. He couldn't believe how close they'd come to capture, or worse. But there was no time to dwell on it. They needed to regroup and figure out their next move. Elle suggested laying low for a few days, letting the heat die down before deciding how to proceed. Musk agreed, though his mind was already racing ahead. If the agents knew about the meeting, they likely knew about the evidence too, which meant Tesla and SpaceX might not be safe either. Back at his companies, strange things were happening. Employees reported unusual activity, servers crashing inexplicably, emails disappearing, and sudden changes in employee behavior. Musk's closest advisors noticed his growing unease but didn't press him for details. Instead, they tightened security protocols and prepared for potential fallout. Musk sent coded messages instructing his inner circle to safeguard critical systems and brace for sabotage. What haunted him most, however, was the realization that the betrayal had come from within. Someone he trusted, an executive perhaps, or a senior manager, had sold him out. The thought gnawed at him, filling him with anger and disappointment. Building a company required trust, and betrayal like this cut deeper than any external threat ever could. Over the next few days, Musk worked tirelessly to secure the evidence. He encrypted the files multiple times, storing copies in different locations to ensure they couldn't be destroyed. He also drafted contingency plans, preparing for the possibility that his enemies might strike again. Meanwhile, Elle disappeared into hiding, promising to resurface when it was safe. Despite the chaos, Musk refused to give up. Each setback only fueled his resolve. He reminded himself why he was doing this, not for fame or fortune, but because someone had to stand up against corruption. If powerful people could operate above the law without consequence, then justice became meaningless. Humanity deserved better. One night, as Musk sat alone in a safe house reviewing the evidence, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Powerful forces were aligned against him, determined to protect their empire at any cost. But Musk had faced impossible odds before and triumphed. This time wouldn't be any different. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere out there, others were fighting the same fight, pushing for transparency and accountability. Together, they formed a chain of hope, each link stronger than the last. Musk smiled faintly. No matter what happened next, he knew he wasn't alone. And sometimes, that made all the difference. The world was about to change forever, and Elon Musk knew it. Sitting in front of a laptop in a dimly lit room, he took a deep breath before hitting the upload button. The evidence, encrypted files, audio recordings, financial documents, and memos, was now out there for anyone with the right tools to find. He had spent days carefully dispersing the information across various platforms, ensuring that even if one source got shut down, others would remain accessible. It wasn't just about exposing corruption. It was about making sure the truth couldn't be buried again. Within hours, the leaks started gaining attention. Independent journalists and investigators who specialized in digging up hidden truths were among the first to notice. They pieced together fragments of the data, cross-referencing details and verifying authenticity. At first, skepticism lingered. After all, claims this explosive sounded too incredible to believe. But as more evidence surfaced, doubt gave way to outrage. Conversations that had once been whispered in secret were now laid bare for the public to see. Social media erupted like wildfire. Hashtags like #expose the truth and Clinton connection began trending globally. People shared snippets of the leaked documents, debated their implications, and called for accountability. For every skeptic dismissing the revelations as baseless conspiracy theories, dozens more rallied behind Musk, praising him for having the courage to take on powerful figures. Grassroots movements sprang up overnight, organizing protests outside government buildings and corporate headquarters linked to the network. But not everyone welcomed the exposure. Mainstream media outlets struggled to respond. Some ignored the story entirely, focusing instead on celebrity gossip or sports updates. Others downplayed its significance, framing Musk's actions as reckless attempts to stir controversy. Pundits accused him of fabricating lies to distract from his own business challenges, pointing fingers at Tesla's recent regulatory hurdles and SpaceX's ambitious projects. Even politicians weighed in, condemning Musk while avoiding direct comments about the allegations themselves. Meanwhile, the Clintons and their allies launched a full-scale counterattack. Statements poured in denying any wrongdoing, painting Musk as an unstable opportunist seeking publicity. Supporters rallied fiercely, flooding social media with hashtags like #Keurig_FakeLeaks and #Keurig_StandWithClinton. Protests broke out in major cities, with crowds divided between those demanding justice and those defending the status quo. The polarization grew sharper by the day, turning living rooms, workplaces, and online forums into battlegrounds of opinion. For Musk, the backlash hit hard. Legal challenges mounted rapidly. Regulators opened investigations into Tesla and SpaceX, alleging everything from antitrust violations to securities fraud. Lawsuits piled up, each one threatening to drain resources and derail operations. His companies faced pressure from investors, some of whom questioned whether aligning with Musk was worth the risk. Employees noticed a shift in morale. Whispers of uncertainty spread through offices as people wondered what the future held. Yet despite the mounting obstacles, Musk refused to back down. He leaned heavily on his inner circle, trusting them to keep operations running smoothly, while he focused on navigating the storm. Late-night strategy sessions became routine, with Musk brainstorming ways to protect his businesses while continuing to expose the conspiracy. Security measures tightened further, both physically and digitally. Armed guards patrolled facilities, and cybersecurity teams worked around the clock to fend off hacking attempts. Publicly, Musk remained defiant. In interviews and statements, he urged people not to take his word alone, but to examine the evidence themselves. "This isn't about me," he said during a live-streamed Q&A session. "It's about holding power accountable. If we let fear silence us, then corruption wins." His words resonated with millions, inspiring ordinary citizens to join the fight for transparency. Behind closed doors, however, the toll was evident. Musk looked exhausted, his usual energy replaced by a weary determination. Sleepless nights had taken their toll, leaving dark circles under his eyes. Friends and family expressed concern, urging him to step back before things spiraled further out of control. But Musk shook his head firmly. Stepping back wasn't an option, not when so much was at stake. One evening, as he reviewed legal documents in his office, Musk received an unexpected visitor. It was one of his oldest confidants, someone who had stood by him through thick and thin. This person didn't mince words. "You're putting yourself and everyone around you at risk," they said bluntly. "Do you really think it's worth it?" Musk paused, considering the question. Worth it? That depended on how you defined success. Financial stability, peace of mind. Those were luxuries he couldn't afford right now. What mattered most was doing the right thing, even if it came at great personal cost. "If I don't do this," he replied quietly, "who will?" As the weeks passed, the movement gained momentum. Protesters marched through streets worldwide, carrying signs demanding justice and accountability. Students organized teach-ins, educating peers about the dangers of unchecked power. Artists created murals depicting symbols of resistance, while musicians penned songs inspired by the uprising. The message was clear. Humanity wanted better, a system where integrity trumped greed, where transparency replaced secrecy. Even within established institutions, cracks began to show. Whistleblowers from other industries came forward, sharing their own stories of corruption and abuse. Journalists uncovered additional scandals tied to the Clinton connection, amplifying the narrative. Governments scrambled to respond, launching inquiries and issuing statements aimed at restoring public trust. Yet no amount of damage control could erase the growing sense that something fundamental needed to change. Amidst the chaos, Musk found moments of solace. Messages poured in from strangers thanking him for standing up, for giving voice to frustrations long suppressed. Some shared personal stories of hardship caused by systemic corruption, while others simply expressed gratitude for reminding them that hope still existed. These interactions reminded Musk why he'd embarked on this journey in the first place. Not for recognition, but for the belief that humanity deserved better. Still, danger loomed closer than ever. Anonymous threats multiplied, ranging from vague warnings to explicit plans of violence. Musk's security team intercepted several assassination plots, each one more chilling than the last. One night, as he prepared to address a crowd during a live-streamed event, a sniper's bullet narrowly missed him, shattering a window behind the podium. The incident sent shockwaves through his supporters, prompting calls for increased protection. Despite the near-death experience, Musk pressed on. He understood the risks and accepted them willingly. Every setback only reinforced his resolve. Corruption thrived in darkness, feeding on silence and complacency. By shining a light on the truth, Musk hoped to inspire others to demand accountability, not just from leaders but from themselves as well. As dawn broke over another sleepless night, Musk gazed out the window at the city skyline. Lights twinkled in the distance, a reminder of the countless lives touched by this fight. Somewhere out there, people were waking up, questioning the systems they'd blindly trusted for so long. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but the seeds had been planted, and sometimes planting seeds was enough. Little did Musk know, the hardest battles were yet to come. But for now, he allowed himself a small smile. Against all odds, the truth was finally coming to light. The world was waking up, one revelation at a time. What had started as whispers of corruption were now deafening cries for justice, echoing across continents and uniting people from all walks of life. Elon Musk's decision to release the evidence had sparked something bigger than anyone could have anticipated. A global movement demanding accountability. It wasn't just about exposing the Clintons or dismantling their network anymore. It was about challenging the entire system that allowed such corruption to thrive in the first place. Courthouses became battlegrounds where truth fought against power. In cities around the world, prosecutors sifted through mountains of leaked documents, piecing together cases that would shake the foundations of politics and business. High-profile figures tied to the Clinton connection found themselves under intense scrutiny, their once spotless reputations crumbling under the weight of undeniable proof. Arrest warrants began rolling out, targeting not only individuals but also corporations and organizations complicit in the conspiracy. Yet for every step forward, there was pushback. Powerful forces weren't going down without a fight. Lawyers representing those implicated launched aggressive counterattacks, filing lawsuits to discredit the evidence and delay proceedings. Some even accused Musk of orchestrating an elaborate smear campaign claiming he fabricated the leaks to settle personal vendettas. The legal battles dragged on, draining resources and testing patience on both sides. But Musk wasn't alone in this fight. As the story unfolded, allies emerged from unexpected places. Whistleblowers from other industries stepped forward, sharing their own experiences of corruption and abuse within powerful systems. Journalists who had spent years chasing leads no one believed suddenly saw their work validated. Grassroots movements gained momentum, organizing protests, petitions, and awareness campaigns aimed at keeping pressure on governments and corporations alike. Social media played a crucial role in amplifying the message. Hashtags like Expose the Truth and Demand Accountability trended daily, drawing attention from millions. People shared stories of how corruption had affected their lives, lost jobs, stolen elections, polluted environments, all linked back to gear. The same web of greed and deceit. Artists painted murals depicting symbols of resistance, while musicians wrote songs inspired by the uprising. Even memes mocking corrupt politicians went viral, turning serious issues into digestible content. For younger audiences, in boardrooms, executives nervously watched the unfolding drama. Companies caught up in the scandal scrambled to distance themselves, issuing statements condemning unethical practices and pledging transparency moving forward. Shareholders demanded answers, forcing leadership changes in some cases. Investors grew wary, pulling funds from businesses tainted by association with the conspiracy. For the first time in decades, corporate giants faced real consequences for their actions, or lack thereof. Meanwhile, Musk continued to play a central role in the movement, though his position came at great personal cost. His fortune dwindled as lawsuits mounted, draining Tesla and SpaceX of valuable resources. Critics seized every opportunity to attack, questioning his motives and mocking his sacrifices. Yet despite the relentless criticism, Musk remained steadfast. He knew the fight wasn't about him. It was about setting an example, showing others that standing up to corruption was possible, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. One evening, after another grueling day of meetings and strategy sessions, Musk sat alone in his office, staring at photos pinned to a corkboard. Each image represented someone who had joined the cause: a protester holding a sign, a whistleblower speaking out, a journalist risking everything to uncover the truth. Their courage reminded him why he kept going, even when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him. Change didn't happen overnight, but every small victory brought them closer to a brighter future. Public opinion shifted dramatically during this period. Once skeptical citizens began questioning authority figures they'd trusted blindly for years. Conversations around dinner tables and water coolers revolved around topics like transparency, ethics, and accountability. Schools incorporated discussions about corruption into curriculums, teaching students the importance of civic responsibility. Even lawmakers, feeling the heat from constituents, introduced bills aimed at closing loopholes exploited by the powerful. Still, danger lingered close. Anonymous threats multiplied, ranging from vague warnings to detailed plans of violence. Musk's security detail worked tirelessly to protect him, intercepting several assassination attempts before they materialized. One night, as he left a courthouse after testifying in yet another high-stakes case, a car sped toward him, narrowly missing impact before speeding away. The incident sent shockwaves through his team, prompting calls for increased protection measures. Despite the constant threat, Musk refused to retreat. He understood that fear was a tool used by oppressors to silence dissent. By facing it head-on, he hoped to inspire others to do the same. "They can try to scare us," he said during a press conference, "but they can't stop us. Not if we stand together." And stand together they did. Protests erupted worldwide, drawing crowds numbering in the tens of thousands. Families marched alongside students, retirees walked beside activists, and strangers bonded over a shared vision of a fairer society. Signs read messages like "Justice over greed" and "No more secrets." Speeches delivered on makeshift stages called for systemic reforms, urging governments to prioritize people over profits. Even celebrities joined the cause, using their platforms to amplify marginalized voices. Actors, musicians, and athletes spoke out against corruption, donating portions of their earnings to support investigative journalism and grassroots initiatives. Their involvement helped bring attention to lesser-known aspects of the scandal, ensuring that smaller players in the conspiracy didn't escape scrutiny. As weeks turned into months, cracks began appearing in the armor of the powerful elite. Allies abandoned ship, distancing themselves from implicated figures to save face. Former collaborators turned witnesses, testifying in exchange for immunity or reduced sentences. With each confession, the network weakened further, its grip on global power loosening bit by bit. Back at Tesla and SpaceX, employees rallied behind Musk, determined to keep operations running smoothly despite mounting challenges. Engineers worked overtime to meet deadlines, while customer service teams handled inquiries with professionalism and empathy. Morale remained surprisingly high, fueled by a shared sense of purpose. Everyone understood that they were part of something bigger than themselves, a fight for integrity and fairness. Late one night, as Musk reviewed updates from his legal team, he received a message from an unknown sender. Attached was a file labeled Phase 2. Curious, he opened it and froze. The contents revealed new layers of the conspiracy, implicating entire nations in schemes designed to manipulate economies and destabilize regions. If verified, these revelations would make the current scandal look like child's play. For a moment, Musk felt overwhelmed. How much more could humanity take? But then he remembered the faces of the protesters, the determination in their eyes, the hope in their hearts. They believed in a better world, not because it was easy, but because it was right, and so did he. With renewed resolve, Musk forwarded the file to trusted investigators, instructing them to verify its authenticity and prepare for what came next. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: the fight wasn't over. But neither was the dream of a world free from corruption. Together they would see it through to the end. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Rows of reporters scribbled furiously in notebooks while cameras clicked incessantly, capturing every moment of what many were calling the trial of the century. At the center of it all stood Elon Musk, dressed simply but deliberately, his calm demeanor masking the whirlwind of emotions churning inside him. This wasn't just another legal proceeding. This was history unfolding before everyone's eyes. For months, investigators had worked tirelessly to piece together the final puzzle of the Clinton connection. The new evidence Musk had uncovered, the Phase 2 files, had blown the lid off an even deeper layer of corruption. It revealed how entire nations had been manipulated, economies destabilized, and wars prolonged for profit. Governments that had once turned a blind eye now found themselves under scrutiny, their leaders forced to answer for decades of complicity. As charges were formally filed, the world watched in stunned silence. High-profile arrests followed, each one sending shockwaves through political and corporate circles. Some defendants pleaded guilty immediately, hoping for leniency, while others dug in their heels, hiring armies of lawyers to fight tooth and nail. But no matter how hard they tried, the mountain of evidence against them was insurmountable. Musk took the stand as a key witness, his testimony gripping everyone in attendance. He spoke plainly, avoiding jargon or theatrics, focusing instead on the facts. He recounted how he'd stumbled upon the encrypted files, the risks he'd taken to expose the truth, and the countless lives impacted by the conspiracy. His words carried weight not because of who he was, but because of the sincerity behind them. When he finished speaking, there was a long pause, a collective breath held by those present, as if the gravity of his message needed time to sink. Outside the courthouse, protests continued, though their tone had shifted. What had begun as angry cries for justice had evolved into something more hopeful. People carried signs reading, "Truth prevails" and "Accountability matters," chanting slogans that celebrated resilience over despair. Families gathered, sharing stories of how the movement had inspired them to demand better from their leaders. Strangers hugged, united by a shared belief that change was possible, even when it felt impossible. Not everyone welcomed the verdicts. Of course, supporters of the accused rallied fiercely, accusing Musk and the investigators of orchestrating witch hunts. Conspiracy theories proliferated online, attempting to discredit the findings and sow doubt among skeptics. Yet these voices grew quieter with each guilty verdict, drowned out by the overwhelming tide of public support for accountability. Behind closed doors, Musk reflected on the cost of the battle. His fortune had dwindled significantly, eaten away by legal fees and operational setbacks. Critics mocked him relentlessly, painting him as reckless and self-serving despite the clear evidence to the contrary. Even some former allies distanced themselves, fearing association with controversy. But none of that mattered anymore. For Musk, the real victory lay not in wealth or recognition, but in knowing he'd done the right thing, even when it hurt. He remembered the faces of people he'd met along the way. Whistleblowers risking everything to speak out, journalists working tirelessly to uncover the truth, ordinary citizens standing up against injustice. Each one reminded him why he'd kept going, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. Together they had formed a chain of courage, each link stronger than the last. And now, finally, the chain had pulled the system apart. One evening after the dust began to settle, Musk returned to SpaceX headquarters. The facility buzzed with activity, engineers fine-tuning rockets destined for distant planets. Despite everything, life moved forward. Musk walked slowly through the halls, stopping, occasionally to chat with employees. They thanked him, not for saving their jobs, but for giving them hope. Hope that integrity could triumph over greed, that transparency could replace secrecy, and that humanity still had the capacity to rise above its flaws. Standing outside, gazing up at the stars, Musk allowed himself a rare moment of peace. The journey hadn't been easy. In fact, it had nearly broken him. But it had also reaffirmed his faith in humanity. Corruption thrived in darkness, feeding on silence and complacency. By shining a light on the truth, Musk had reminded the world of its power to resist, to question, and to demand better. Still, he knew the fight wasn't entirely over. Systems designed to protect the powerful wouldn't dismantle themselves overnight. There would always be those willing to exploit loopholes, bend rules, and prioritize profit over people. But for the first time in years, Musk felt optimistic. Change had started, and momentum was building. Ordinary citizens were waking up, realizing their voices mattered. Leaders were being held accountable, however reluctantly. And movements born from outrage were transforming into forces for good. In the weeks that followed, Musk made headlines again, not for lawsuits or scandals, but for launching a new initiative aimed at promoting transparency in government and business. Partnering with independent watchdog groups, investigative journalists, and grassroots organizations, he created a platform where whistleblowers could safely share information without fear of retaliation. The project quickly gained traction, drawing support from tech giants, philanthropists, and everyday citizens eager to keep the momentum alive. Critics dismissed the effort as naive, arguing that corruption couldn't be eradicated so easily. Musk didn't disagree, at least not entirely. He understood that perfection was unattainable. But striving for improvement, that was worth fighting for. Every step forward, no matter how small, brought humanity closer to a fairer, more just society. As the year drew to a close, Musk gave a speech at an international summit focused on ethics and governance. Standing before a diverse audience of policymakers, activists, and innovators, he spoke candidly about the lessons he'd learned during the ordeal. Corruption isn't just a problem for politicians or corporations, he said. It's a human problem, one we all have a responsibility to address. We can't wait for someone else to fix it. We have to do it ourselves. His words resonated deeply, earning applause that lasted several minutes. Afterward, attendees approached him, thanking him for reminding them of their power to effect change. Some promised to join the Transparency Initiative. Others pledged to hold their own leaders accountable. For Musk, seeing people take ownership of the cause filled him with pride. The movement wasn't about him. It never had been. It was about empowering others to stand up and say enough is enough. Back home, Musk spent quiet evenings reflecting on the journey. Photographs lined his office walls. Images of protesters holding signs, whistleblowers speaking out, and children smiling in classrooms learning about civic responsibility. Each picture told a story of courage, resilience, and hope. Together they formed a mosaic of humanity rising above adversity. Late one night, as he prepared to leave the office, Musk glanced at a framed quote hanging near his desk. It read, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." He smiled faintly, nodding to himself. Yes, the road ahead would still be challenging. But if humanity continued to push in the right direction, justice would prevail, not just for today, but for generations to come. With that thought, he turned off the lights, locked the door, and stepped out into the cool night air. Above him, The stars twinkled brightly, infinite and unwavering, just like the dream of a better future, a dream worth chasing, no matter the cost.